It's time for more coaching and coffee talk. Today, my guest is Sasha Syomin. Sasha is part of the last generation of old school Soviet trained gymnasts to come out of the former Soviet Union before the fall of the Iron Curtain. He immigrated to the US and has had a successful career as a performer, gymnastics teacher, and day trader. He is about to begin his 26th year performing at the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. He has a super fun Facebook group called Handstand for Life that's all about supporting gymnastic skills and learning throughout life with some fun 80s pop culture sprinkled in. And he holds regular free Handstand for Life workouts in Central Park. Sasha.
Scott, how
Thanks
are
for
you?
being here.
It's
Thanks
great
for doing
to see you. Great weather from New York to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
I hope, guys, I can rub it on you because we got just gorgeous weather.
Oh yeah, it's not too hot there today?
On the sun it is. Probably you'll get burned within 5 minutes, but it's dry. What's interesting, this year, it's first time in 25 years I've been in New York for that long. The summer feels like I've heard in Arizona, there is that climate when it's hot, but it's dry and pleasant. In the morning, and at night, feels crispy,
Okay.
It's fantastic. I hope it lasts, but nothing lasts forever on Earth, especially good things, as we all know.
Especially shoulders that we'll get into, I'm sure.
Our bodies, in a state of denial, constant state of denial, constant trying to push away the thought of the numbers. When years go by, you still kind of block all those mathematical calculations and stay young, forever young. Yeah, just like our favorite song.
In a few weeks, I'm going to be 55, if you can believe that. So I'm all for blocking that out.
Wow.
Actually, I'm celebrating now, having made it through a rough year there a little while back. But I was thinking, Sasha, because we performed kind of together at the Met for so long, except the gymnasts were kind of, you're like captain of the gymnast group, right?
Pretty
much.
Yes.
And organizing everybody.
For many shows, not like an official title, but for many shows where there needs to be an organized process of rehearsals, and usually it does, unless you're a single guy on a stage and there is nobody, no props, then you're more or less safe, kind of. When you are working within gigantic group of people that are at the same time with you on stage, and they actually do much more important things than you're flipping. They're singing. People pay money to see them, and you're tumbling in front of them, over them, fighting with them. Someone has to organize that violence, Otherwise, it can go a little bit in the wrong direction, and then they don't rehire if someone, remember, have you done the War and Peace?
Someone gets a foot in the face.
Not only that, someone falls into orchestra pit. I don't remember. Did you do the War and Peace?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, are you kidding me? I was Tsar Alexander the First. What do you mean?
Oh, that's right. Oh, Your Highness.
Well, I wasn't the first. I think Frank Della Pola. Is it Frank Della Pola? Is that his name? Della Pola. I think he was it. First, and then.
So being a czar and high on your throne, you probably didn't even notice that one of the French soldiers retreating from Moscow fell into the orchestra pit, broke the whatever that violin baton.
The bow,
The bow, yes. Yeah. Safely landed there. Apparently not on top of anyone, just on top of his butt. Was introduced to the audience by general manager, got 15 minutes of fame in New York Times next day, and of course, unfortunately, we have not seen him since. So I don't need my 15 minutes of fame. Yeah. I'm trying to be most of the shows incognito, and do my job safely.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, we actually shared a dressing room all these years, but I don't think I ever really sat down and learned that much about you, because you're always, the gymnasts are together and you're always worrying about the show. So I'm actually really interested to hear about your childhood growing up in the Soviet Union and the whole kind of training regimen, you know, getting into gymnastics. And I mean, there's a whole like very serious system in place back then in the Soviet Union, right?
There was, and I hope in some form it still exists, because that's how I believe Soviet Union was able to produce talents, champions, Olympic champions, and dominated some sports, especially gymnastics, throughout the 80s, 70s, and 80s. Before them, there was Japanese gymnasts. And that, I believe, was thanks to the system they created. They would handpick talents. They would go to elementary school. Our school year would start on September 1st. So the coaches would not disrupt the festivities on September 1st. Let's say they would go next week, Monday, and take the first graders, line them up, and let's say if the coach was for boys or girls, of course, he would line up boys. And right away, he would go to the end of the line where the shortest guys would be. Right there, he would ask 5 of them to step forward. And usually they'll be first graders, 6, 7-year-old. They're tiny like this. Yeah. And I can tell, and I'm sorry if it would sound a little bit politically incorrect these days. Of course, he would visually right there make a note and probably do not call someone out if the kid is on the heavy side. Even though he might be short, it would be known that the kid might want to grow up a little bit and then go into some other sport, weightlifting, wrestling, you know, where his physique would work better. But for gymnasts, you need to be basically like a twig. The coach, I remember, put out his arm like this, as a young, strong guy, and says, anyone can do pull-up. So you grab the arm, it feels like you're grabbing the log. And you try a couple pull-ups. Then he would put 2 arms like this. So making like a parallel bars. Yeah. You would jump on, facing out. So the coach behind you, and you would try to hold L. So right there in the school, in that condition, within 5 minutes, he could choose maybe out of 5 guys in front of him, 1 or 2 to invite to the gym. Okay. So I was invited. And when
so you did pull-ups and you held the L.
Well, I'll tell you more. When I was invited to the gym, the tests become more serious. Literally, at those days, and that was 1977 when I started gymnastics. I was 6 years old.
Wow.
Coaches were not interested unless the kid, without any preparation, just by being born, I guess, physically active and strong. But I remember my results. I was able to do about 7 to 9 pull-ups. I don't think I did 10, but more than 5. I was able to do few dips, hold L for nice clean L. And the most important part, I just happened to be flexible, which is very important in gymnastics. It is important not only being strong. As a matter of fact, if you're too strong in gymnastics, it might be actually a minus. You have to combine the balance between being flexible and strong. So I almost sat on all 3 splits. So of course I was accepted, and my coach told my mom told me later, years later, this guy is going to be champion. Of course, at that time, she told me that 10 years later, and I was thinking, well, he saw the talent. Same as coach here for 25 years, I can see the kid with the talent. But it's very questionable whether someone will become a champion, because from there, the road becomes very long with up and downs, and not everyone survived. I mean, not physically. Not everyone lasted even past the first year. Yeah. I remember the training was so hard first year that when we were let for the summer to go and enjoy a couple months off, the coaches just decided that 7-year-old kid, if he misses a couple months, not a big difference. So I spent that time in the regular summer camp, met friends. We were playing mostly soccer games and the games that kids play. I don't know, Pirates,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
When I came back, and it was time, it was about September, end of August, my mom said, listen, your first workout is on September 1st, first day of school, and then you go to gym for your workout. I go, Mom, I don't really want to go to workout. I don't like gymnastics. I want to just hang out with my neighborhood kids. We're going to play soccer. We're going to enjoy just being kids. She goes, and actually, I owe my mom everything. She was the one who actually made me stay, and she did it by a simple trick. My biggest dream at that point was to have a leather soccer ball with checkers, white, black, and they were for sale even in Soviet Union. But the price for the single ball, soccer ball, was about my full month salary. Wow. Can you imagine? It's if someone making here, let's say 3,000 a month. So to buy a soccer ball, she had to spend 3,000, but she did spend the entire salary, and she bought me that ball. The condition was, she told me, I'll get you the ball, but you go back to the gym, gymnastics place. You play soccer on weekends. I said, okay. To be honest, I played that ball maybe once, and then it got lost or got punctured or someone stole it, but I never left gymnastic gym. I went to the gym and stayed till my retirement at pretty early for gymnast. I retired right about where Soviet Union fell apart, 1991. Couple local meets, but serious competition was over, I believe, in 1990 for me, which is interesting transition, but it kind of helped me to, first of all, I didn't get too many injuries. A lot of my friends, those days, strangely, rehabilitation, I mean, they did great job training us as a champions, but there was a lot of overworking, your human body going through the growth can afford only particular amount of strengthful workouts, and you have to monitor it. Even though we were monitored, we would go to medical full body checkup twice a year. They would monitor your heart, even the mental state, joints, eyesight. You had a cavity, they would not allow you to compete. You would have to go to the dentist. Of course, everything was paid for, but they were strict about that. Anyway, I retired pretty early, even for those days when gymnasts in late 80s could compete successfully through mid-20s. I was only 20, 21 year old. These days, there are gymnasts who still compete in their late 30s. And there is even one lady, Olga Chusavitina. She competed for Soviet Union, then she competed for Uzbekistan, competed for Germany. I know that in Tokyo, it'll be her 8th Olympic Games. Wow. 8. So she is up there. I don't want to tell her age, but by simple mathematical calculation, that lady, I mean, she could have been grandma legally at her age. Wow. She's still in top shape, and thus the difficulty that is inspiring. Yeah. Basically, her younger than her daughter generation of gymnasts. That's what gymnastics is. It's a great sport, and because of gymnastics, I ended up on stage of the Metropolitan Opera House.
Let me ask a question before we move on to that. Let me ask a question about just what it was like. So you kept going to regular school, and then once your school day was over, then you started the gymnastics training in the afternoons?
Not really. You would never achieve high results that were expected from you unless you dedicate your life at that point of youth, mostly to sport. When I won my, I believe, second or third all-around Moscow championship, the head coach of Moscow team pulled me over and said, Sasha, what do you think? Are you planning to do with your life, gymnastics life? Do you want to progress? Do you want to become a champion, do you want to train with a high-level gymnast? They go, yes, I do. Then you have to go to special school. So at about, it was my 4th grade when I went, and luckily I am from Moscow, and the school, there were a few throughout Soviet Union, but one of the best was in Moscow, about hour and 15, hour and a half subway ride on the other side of the Moscow. I would go, so I spent from 5th grade to 11th grade in that school. And it was kind of almost, I would say, a military style living. We lived in dormitories. Yeah. Boys are separated from girls. We had a central big building where the actual school was for your academics. You would go early. In the morning, he would wake up, and of course there were facilities for food emporium, the medical ward where anything could be done. I mean, if someone gets injured. And so the regiment was, you would wake up, and then our gymnastic place was about 10-minute walk. So we would go, our workout would start at 8:30 a.m. Guys who, let's say, did track and field, they boarded the buses, like a school buses, type of Soviet Union style school buses, and they would be shuttled to the arena where they would practice track and field. The fencing guys would be taken to the fencing facility and such. We had about 28 different Olympic sports in that school.
Okay, all in this school. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Of course, gymnasts, let's say in my age group, or what do you call it? My grade, there were only 3 guys gymnasts. So there were like 3 gymnasts, 2 chess players, 4 boxers, 6 track and field. So the average group or class would be just normal, like 20, 24, 28 people. And then after you did your first workout, you go, and then you go to that big building, you sit for 3-4 hours, 3 hours of academic classes. Then there'll be a lunch. Then you go back to school and finish it with 2 more hours of classes, physics, mathematics, whatever was on that day. And then it was about 5 o'clock. You would have a second lunch or whatever, light lunch with food. Go back on your bus and go back for the second workout. We would walk back 10 minutes to our gymnastic gym, and our second workout would start. After we were done at about 7:30 with the second workout, we would go back to the same building, to the food emporium, have our dinner, and then we were required to report to the classroom for homework. We were not allowed to go sit, watch TV. Everyone took their basically academics books, whether you like it or not, and go sit behind the like a school desk and do your homework. By doing that, they basically made sure that you not only succeed in your whatever sport you were doing, but you as well succeed as a human. You learn what you need to learn for high school education at least. Yeah. And then at 10 o'clock, the coaches would pass the long corridors of those dormitories and would scream like in the military, lights out, or in jail, lights out, bam, bam, bam. Stop conversation, stop that laughter. Yeah. Stuff like that, you know? It was pretty strict, but at the same time, those were the best years for me. On Saturday, we would have discoteca in the gym where dancers would practice. We would listen to all the 80s music came from there, because it's the first time you invite the girl for a slow dance. First time you hear some new European techno beat, you know. And we made friends for life. People from there now, we're still in touch. Many of them are members of Can't Stand for Life group. Many of them are still involved in gymnastics, but now coaches. And many of them became performers, as I did for 25 years because of gymnastics. That's basically, in short, how it worked. Not everyone had to go to that border school. There was different system. Like some people who lived close, they would go and sleep at home, but then in the morning they have to report for workout at 8:30. So there were variations, but effectively it was a system that brought the results. And of course, very good coaches, very good coaching staff, knowledgeable.
And let me ask you about like specifically the training. Was it all practicing gymnastic moves on different apparatuses and stuff like that, or was there weight training to build strength, or what did the training look like?
Well, gymnastics as a sport has a specifics that we need to stay light. We do need to be strong to lift our own bodies and hold it in static positions, iron cross, a plank. But we don't need to lift heavy weights because it will bulk you up. And then you'll feel heavy on apparatus. Weights were present in the gym, but we would use light weights, and later in our gymnastics life, when there is understanding, when you actually pass that first stage of puberty, when it's kind of dangerous to overload your skeletal structure, it's better to do calisthenics with your own body. But besides gymnastics, ballet training was part of us. Part of us, we had a professional ballerina instructor, coach, teacher, and many guys just hated it. I loved it. For a whole hour, we would be by the bar doing battements, jeté, passe. I mean, it's pretty strange for gymnasts. It's boring work, but it sets the overall presentation. Whoever was good at learning those moves, almost on each event, you can see the improvement in lines. They would work on our points. They would physically stretch our feet so the point is nice and elegant. Same with lines, the long neck, all the gymnasts are like this. So again, that was something that I believe was probably not invented during my gymnastic years, but it was given a good amount of time, and it did result. On Thursdays, they would take us to the swimming pool, so we would swim. What else? They would allow us to play soccer, but I remember once you reach a particular level, you actually was prevented from playing soccer because you can roll your ankle, injure your meniscus. The coaches would say no to soccer games. But swimming was always part of our once a week, like they would take, and cross-country skis. That's probably popular in Denmark.
It is. There's not too many hills, so So what? And you mentioned some of the titles that you held there with the Moscow championships and stuff like that. Give us reel off a little bit of some of the championships that you won.
I won all-round Moscow championship in different levels. Like there is youth level, adult level, and levels in between. 7 times. I was 7 times all-round Moscow championship. Those days, Moscow was presented by gymnastic community that was considered as big as any of the republics. So it's basically a regional importance. It's like winning, if not nationals, but regional competition, because you were competing amongst the best, not all the best, but I can tell you, and it's not bragging, that I did beat future Olympic champions when I was young. We are friends, and they of course went further on and represented Soviet Union internationally on big stages, podiums, Olympic Games. But I do feel good that at some point in my life I was standing next to them or even higher. I won youth national title 2 times. Once I beat a good friend of mine, Rustam Sharipov, in 1987, who went on becoming an Olympic champion and world champion. I competed internationally, and my highest result was international, pretty well represented. I think it was 12 countries represented, meet in Tunisia, Africa, North Africa. We won as a team. I took 2nd place all around, and took gold on parallel bars, and I believe bronze on high bar. And that be it. You know, it's almost like there were many other meets and opportunities, but gymnastics is very competitive sport. And I believe that true champions are not the ones who just, you know, had it easy and straight shot up like this. They had up and downs, you know. You have to muscle through difficult times. And maybe if I stayed in 1991, I had a chance to compete internationally more and even maybe become a member of main national team, because a lot of guys went back to their home countries. They became republics. 15 republics became countries, you know, and everyone needed their own gymnastics team. So guys who were born in Ukraine but represented Soviet Union went to Ukraine, Belarusia. Belarusians went to Belarus and such and such. So the Russia was left with a pretty limited amount of strong guys. So there was better chance to kind of earn the spot, which still was not easy. But that's the supreme.
And then talk a bit more about, so you're 20 years old and during the collapse of the Soviet Union, and just what that was like, and how it turned into a decision to leave and come to the US.
Well, it wasn't. The collapse of Soviet Union did absolutely nothing for my decision to come to United States. The collapse of Soviet Union didn't even do anything for me to quit gymnastics. I actually was already in transition. Around 1990, I found that the new generation of gymnasts were coming strong. And there was one meet, the one that I'm still a little bit bitter about, where I clearly should have been the first all around, and I was given the second place. Later on, the person whom they give the first place, we were friends. We were friends throughout all our training. That person became Olympic champion in Atlanta in 1996. So during that game, I beat him by few tenths of a point, and I was very disappointed. And head coach of the Moscow team invited me for a conversation. He goes, "Sasha, listen, sometimes we do need to give new and upcoming talented gymnasts the taste of victory. I'm sorry that the judging was not, for you, seems like was not fair. But that's how it goes. You're a seasoned gymnast, so you'll be all right." And I was all right, but I kind of, right then, I think decision was made that something kind of almost broke inside me. And for true champion, I should have stayed, and I didn't. So the thing, if, you know, we choose our battles, and I decided, okay, maybe that's a good opportunity for me to start a new life, and new life started for the entire country. It was very exciting on this trip, because starting with the Gorbachev, Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev, first president, Soviet president, the private business enterprises were allowed. So everyone started opening up a small shops that would sell some food. Someone would go into light manufacturing. Someone would start exporting, importing cars from Europe. So I joined the movement, so to say. I became a small-time businessman. At the same time, I did need to heal a few injuries, namely the same shoulder that now is after surgery and recovers slowly and not too successfully. I went to bodybuilding.
That's when you did the bodybuilding.
Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger everywhere. Commando, Terminator.
That's when I started training too. I got the Arnold Schwarzenegger calendar, right? I got the calendar, and the exercises were down the side of the calendar, and that's what I did. You know, from 12 years old, I was lifting trying to do his workouts ridiculous.
Your upbringing as a bodybuilder was much more sophisticated than ours. Ours was black Xerox reprinted like a pictures that you don't even see where the biceps were triceps. It's all smudged up, but you can figure out that the guy is doing curls, and then there's something he's doing bench presses. But I went to bodybuilding and I kind of enjoyed it. It was for me almost. I decided to compete. I didn't know much about. Well, I did know a good thing about gymnastics. It gave me understanding of my body, my structural, the muscle structure. I did know what exercises work the best for that group, and of course, then you learn as you go what exercise with dumbbells or bars work. I competed for a couple of years, took second place Moscow championship, and was sixth at the nationals. But had to stop because a year later, again, I was busy trying to be a businessman, and at the same time, a year later, I saw the guys whom I was standing in the same weight category, and they're now 20 kilos heavier, and they look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm like, what happened to you? The guy goes, well, it's a hard training, vitamins. I'm like, yes, we know those vitamins. Yeah. I don't want to go. I'm good without vitamins. I'll drink my water and eat my cucumbers and tomato salad. So I decided, I saved my love for physical activity. I do have a couple dumbbells at home, but I'm back to my gymnastic roots. I prefer calisthenics. I go to the park, to Central Park, about 2-3 times per week to do my calisthenics sets. And on Saturday, as you mentioned, we have our handstand for life class when we do basically hour and a half workout like gymnasts do. Workout, warm up, little handstand drills, some cartwheels, someone can do back handspring with his spot, and then we do the conditioning for whole body. It's fun.
Yes. But how did you end up in New York?
Good question. So, good thing that I mentioned the bodybuilding, because I came to United States actually not because of gymnastics, because of bodybuilding. I was working for the Moscow Federation or Russian Federation of Bodybuilding, was good friends with their top guys, administrators, and they invited me to come to United States because bodybuilding, those international competitions, they were more popular than gymnastics was. So somehow I ended up coming to Jacksonville, Florida. But we spent a couple of weeks traveling a little bit, and those 2 weeks were enough for me to fall in love with United States. It was 1995. When I came back, I finished all my business, squared off with all my whatever I had deals with, put together duffel bag, and came to Jacksonville and spent hot summer driving, not air conditioned, tiny American car, delivering Chinese food, and going to community college learning English, which helped a lot. And then I met someone who is an owner of a gym, First Coast Gymnastics. It's still a successful place in Jacksonville. Andrei Shishkin. He made a couple of phone calls, and they were needed a coach in New York, upstate New York, Rockland County. And the work visa was made for me instead of tourist. And that's how my official road to citizen started. I went back, said to my mom, listen, Mom, it looks like I'm going to be staying there. I got a contract for 3 years to teach gymnastics and started. But unfortunately, the Rockland County didn't last for me too long. It was a little bit too boring for 25-year-old kid. It's like nowhere. You sleep, you drive your car to gas station, supermarket, and the gym. You go back to gas station. Occasionally, you end up in between in the bar trying to meet someone. So on weekends, I started taking a bus, coming to New York City.
Okay.
And first time I remember 42nd Street, 1990. It was winter between 95, 96. You get off the Port Authority, and it's all triple X stores. You know, they're still there.
Yeah.
They're still there, 25 cents, whatever. Sex shops, like lines and lines. But you look up and you see those magnificent buildings, skyscrapers. I literally fell in love. And then by chance, I saw the advertisement that Chris Harrison, the founder of Anti-Gravity, put in, I think, Gymnastics magazine, that they were looking for a former gymnast, dancers. I called him and was hired on the spot. And one of my first gigs, not the first one in a big arena in New Jersey, we did some opening for like a football game. But the second gig was, he goes, would you like to work in the opera? I go, yes, of course. What do I have to do? He goes, not much. There is a little bit tumbling. I'll teach you how to do acro sport. And I was hired to do ballo. We were on stage that fall of 96. So that's how I ended up on stage of the mat again, thanks to sport, thanks to my ability to flip and handstand safely without hurting myself or anyone around me. And that's how I met you. I remember we would compliment you. You had the most handsome hair in the men's department. Everyone, salt and pepper, Scott, salt and pepper. Everyone were like dreaming. Everyone were looking in the Dwayne Reed stores like for chemicals. How can you think I can swing at 24 salt and pepper? And it's not right here. I mean, but
yeah,
when
I had a bit more than it was a bit of a bouffant, you know.
Yeah. When we met, we had different haircuts. I mean, this morning I had bouffant, how you call it, but decided to. It's such a pain in the ass to wash. This is easy, ready to go.
And so talk about Handstand for Life, because it's such a fun group. I mean, you got. I mean, because you can see that you've got a lot of gymnasts in there, and they talk very. It's actually quite educational for me, because I don't know, my gymnastic knowledge is not that deep. So it's cool to see all the gymnastic stuff, and then now it makes sense to me that you also post some ballet stuff. But then it also sprinkled throughout is this 80s pop culture, your love of 80s
and
new
movies
wave, and
that we grew up on,
and
music.
and movies too, yeah.
But
what, did you just have the idea to do this, or how did that come about?
The idea came about, well, Handstand for Life is now just under a year and a half old, and we have more than 1,200 members. I think it's 1,300, and it's growing every single day. I do see that it is becoming something popular and feel now. Now, it was done for fun. We created, how can I put it? About 2 years ago, I was thinking, okay, everyone is doing YouTube, opening YouTube channel, everyone teaching online, becoming YouTuber and stuff like that. I'm thinking, okay, should I do that? I was never interested in social media, but being 48 years old then, I think maybe I should videotape something and do some tutorials as a memory for myself, because if I can do it now at 48, there is no guarantee that I'd be able to do it at 55. My body, or I hope I'm still be able to do handstand, but not to show how to learn, let's say, a difficult trick or tumbling on the floor. So I kind of took advantage of my youthfulness and good health at that point and created a small YouTube channel. And then I thought, okay, I need to promote it. So Handstand for Life was created. But not before long, I realized I was not interested in becoming YouTuber. I ended up making about 50 tutorials, which I've heard are pretty good for a professional coaches and gymnasts to see details and techniques, because they do come from the best school of gymnastics. And I am pretty technical guy in terms of biomechanics, dynamics. So those are pretty good videos. They're not too entertaining for the general public. So Handstand for Life from them took life on its own. I wasn't using it, decided that it was not the proper platform to promote personal YouTube channel, even though sometimes I put a tutorial once a month how to do calisthenics with a small piece of TerraBand, because I know that some people might be interested to learn. What can I do? I don't have equipment, I don't have dumbbells, but I need to keep myself in shape. From there, I've seen, I checked a little bit on social media what's available, found a an interesting group, I think it's called Gymnastic Fans 1896, which is first Olympic Games, modern time Olympic Games till now. And so what they do, and it's very, very much all about gymnastics. And after like 10 minutes, as a professional gymnast, I'm scrolling through all that, and I'm like, "Ooh, this cool! Look at that routine. Look at this comment." And then 10 minutes later, I'm like, "Oh, let's click something like horror movies. Okay, 80s music. Oh, that's interesting." So I realized that a human, normal human, especially a person who did not grow up in gymnastics, can only take that many flips and handstands. You gotta sprinkle it up. You know, you have to. Yes, you can't just feed plain rice to someone. Give them a candy. And plus I think it's, someone said it. I almost stole it. Handstand is about balance. When I heard it, that was for me like a light bulb. Exactly, the balance in life. It's not all about being straight gymnast, like rigid. Because, like I said, gymnastics, we did dancing. We enjoyed the music. We enjoyed growing up as a kids, watching horror movies, going to discotheque, and it all was balanced. That's what makes our life interesting. That's what basically saying handstand for life. Handstand could be anything. You do not need to be upside down. It's basically saying, I can hand, but you can stand for life. And it's all about balance. You mix it up. Enjoy being an athlete. Enjoy loving music, arts, stage, paintings, movies, stories about actors. So that's how Handstand for Life grew into that interesting borscht, kind of, the pot of everything. But I'm glad to hear from you as our member and user that you visited, you enjoy the posts, and I know that you love music, that you produce music and create music. I know that we share love for 80s.
Yeah.
And I hope our members, and I believe that our members to some extent too. Of course, we will do and put a lot of handstands there. You can, it'll be there. But we are planning, because instead of being a single guy, I found someone. I realized that it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So one of the first member was Clay. I believe I pronounced his last name properly. Futrell.
Yeah.
He's Australian guy. He's one of the biggest gymnastic fans there is. He is admin for that Gymnastic Fans 1896 group.
Oh, okay.
So I saw him kind of commenting on my Handstand for Life. Yeah. And then I checked him out, and I see that he's walking encyclopedia of gymnastics. Plus, it looks like every gymnast knows him, and he knows everyone. So I contacted to him. I go, Clay, would you be interested to join me in developing handstand for life? He goes, let me check it. He goes, I like the format. And we spoke to him. They're actually, he and his husband will visit me in New York pretty soon.
Oh, cool.
I invited him to become our admin, and all the technical stuff, all the boring stuff, sorry, Clay, that's from him. And all the fun stuff is from me. No, I think it's a nice combination.
And what I mean, speaking of combinations, you do a few different things now. Like once the like I know you've coached gymnastics. You're a performer also with anti-gravity at the Met and other spaces, and then you also began day trading. And when did you start that one?
Well, before that, I should mention that for almost 25 years, I was a full-time contractor. I had my construction.
Oh, that's right. You're a contractor too. That's right.
Yes, yeah. And it's amazing how, I don't know, I probably, if you ask me try it again, I would say, are you kidding me? It's impossible. I managed part-time coaching at Chelsea Piers or Sutton, work at the Met, and full-time basically running construction company. The thing that helped, I created a company that was so-called boutique company. We didn't take 10 jobs. We took one job and did it super well, but we were expensive. And I just stopped doing contracting about 2 years ago. You know, you get tired, but I miss. It's another creation. You create something with your hands. You enjoy it very much. At the end of the day, you see the results of your work. Like coaching for me is much harder because it takes years for you to see results of your work. With construction, you put 2 tiles on the wall, you can sit on the bucket with compound and think, oh, I am a good contractor. I see the difference. There weren't them yet. Yeah. So day trading, well, everyone now is a day trader, you know, especially with the pandemic. Everyone jumped on and opened an account at Robinhood or TD Ameritrade or Webull. And unfortunately, market is now heavily manipulated. And I just wish those guys who now day trade, not to make money, but not to lose money. Guys, if you can manage not to lose money, you'll be making money. Guys, remember, it's heavily manipulated market. Even solid stocks like Apple, Amazon, being swung up and down the amount of percentage during the day that I've never seen in my life. Day trading is interesting activity. I'm actually watching now. I'm probably down on Tesla. In 2 days, Tesla went 10%. I mean, that's exciting. You know, you have your own hours. You can trade Bitcoin. I trade Bitcoin overnight because you can trade Bitcoin. It's not a stock. You can trade it 24 hours. Plus, there is no limit on 25,000. But of course, then you have to be careful. Sometimes I feel that day trading, I'm glad for this podcast because you took me from trading for an hour, like a vacation from Scott. Thank you. You gave me 1 hour vacation from day trading. Otherwise, I'm like constantly throughout the day.
But you're still keeping your eye on it.
I do. I'm actually, I can hear the orders executed, and it's not good sign because I put like no order to buy Tesla. If something clicks, I'm like, oh, Tesla is tanking. But listen, it's the name of the game. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, but I can guarantee you guys there is better and safer way to make money. So if you've got a job and you like it, stick to the job 9 to 5. Make whatever pays your bill, and don't worry about those guys that you are hearing someone made $10 million on AMC in 1 week. You know, someone lost $10 million within the same period of time. So day trading is not for everyone. But I'm glad that I discovered. It's another thing, like it's not that much you can create, but there is a lot of learning you can do, and of course freedom. So if you play it safe, I think you can be a successful trader to the extent that you pay your bills. Whether you will become a rich trader, most likely not. They're only by statistic. only 2-3% of day traders make it.
Mhm.
Most of the traders, they're lucky if they don't lose if they don't blow their account entirely, if they just damage themselves so they can walk away and then shake it off and then say, oh, that was scary. You know, I'm at that point now. It's scary because I'm down. I'm in the red, big time. I was up just half a year and then that market rotation. But again, I don't want to go here in details about day trading. But you're right, day trading is now popular activity. But if someone is watching and thinking, should I become a day trader? My advice, if you have 20,000 to lose and play with, go for it. But if you're going to be hurt and your life will depend whether you pay your bills or you have enough money to buy groceries. If you lose, let's say, half of that 20,000, which is very realistic that you might lose, even more, then don't do it.
And what about just to wrap up, so you can get back to your fair day trading there. Have you gotten a call from the Met about going back to the Met this year?
Yes, I finally did. All this summer we were hanging in the limbo, not only because the pandemic was still on. There were a very hard negotiations between unions who represent stagehands, orchestra, and management. And at some point, I even heard that the Met locked out everyone. And the season was under a big question. But as of last week or even beginning of this week, the news came that negotiations were successful. And interesting that you mentioned yesterday, I got the call to come back for Turandot to do a Prince of Persia part. That it'd be my, I think, 22nd year doing Prince of Persia. And to be an acro captain for the tumblers on stage, which I'm very excited.
And is that your favorite role, the Prince of Persia, or what's your favorite thing you've done at the Met? Can you pick one?
Well, Prince of Persia is definitely my what they call 15-minute thing, because I am dead spot center stage with the spotlights on me. There is nothing going on stage. It's me giving the jewelries to the poor people of Peking and jewels.
I used to watch you do it. I used to watch you do it every night. I was on my guard with the scythe and the mask.
So now,
but you're great. You're great in that role. You're great in that role.
Now I'm Prince in the first act, and then I'm a guard, like a humble guard in the third act. No one knows that it's a dead prince right there on stage. Look, guys, that's a Prince of Persia right there.
And you're actually, for anybody that hasn't seen it, you actually are beheaded, and your head stuck on a stake, and they actually made an artist made your head.
Absolutely, exactly.
Which is really cool.
It's really eerie. Yes, they had to do it because Met now broadcasts live to the movie theaters. They did what you guys can see in like on YouTube. The person sits with the tube, and the whole head is covered in some mold, plaster, whatever, and it's being taken and it's being molded. Interesting experience. And actually, I kept a mask made of by artists who Arnold. Remember Arnold?
Of course. Yes,
Arnold was the one who kind of enclosed me in plaster and said, "Sasha, it's all right. He was like, I'm okay. I'm next to you. All good. Can you breathe?" Yes, he was great. I mean, I can see some people freaking out like a claustrophobic. Let me out. I'm not an man in the iron mask or Gibson mask. You said the Turandot. Yes, it is to some extent. Turandot is my favorite show because that show made me fall in love with opera. I found Turandot, some Puccini in general, but especially Turandot, there is a lot of repetition, almost like a chorus in a pop song. and that the line that carries through the entire show, you know, and there's moments that boil your soul. You get the tears in your eyes because it's so powerful. I had a period I would listen to them that like I listen to Depeche Mode, I crank it up on my stereo. You know, but
that was my first opera there. That was my first one. It
is beautiful opera.
I was one of the black guards in the beginning, you know, and with Chris Dumont, our mutual friend.
You were,
and he said, okay, we do a cross together. And I'll sit there, I'm like, okay, here I go. And I went across that stage and I had no idea what, I mean, if you've never been on stage in an opera house, it's so crazy because it's so shallow, right? It's built to keep the people as close to the stage as possible, and it just goes up like that. And I just went, whoa.
It is
so many people. And then of course, the music, like you said, is so accessible. It's kind of like the pop music of opera. It's
exactly.
So many great arias in there.
What's interesting being on stage, like you say, it is a shock, but at the same time, when you're doing character like Prince of Persia, you don't really face in the audience. You don't see the audience. You actually don't want to, because you are in character. Once you look at someone's face, you feel like you would lose that aura that you are. But being a guard in the third act, with the mask, I actually can enjoy watching it like an audience. Now I can see the audience. I can like see how many people are there, empty spots, seats on the balconies. Look at the people. Okay, how people react in the first row when they're facing up stage.
Talk to the guy next to you.
Well,
crack jokes. It's
a great place. I'm sure you're missing being on stage. The Met probably.
Yeah, I do miss it. Yeah.
It's a great gig, and I'm glad now. Now we are, like you said before, acrobats were on their own. Now there are not that many acrobats, and many acrobats we're trying to get just regular supering jobs because there is not enough shows for us to tumble. And so we're kind of trying to make transition, and some do it more successful than others. Because of course the group of supers in general, they're represented by a pretty good quality actors. You know, some of them are doing movies, some of them are in the theaters. So for me to think that because I'm a gymnast, I can audition for just pure acting part and I have to get it is a wishful thinking. It's kind of competitive now, you know.
Well, it was very much that way when I left too. Then it was time for me to do something else.
Well, your replacement is the most noble. You created family. You had 2 kids. You moved to another country. You took care of your health, right? You kind of survived the pretty scary. Was it like
heart attack? Heart attack,
Heart attack, yes.
Yeah, no, my heart stopped for 40 minutes. Over 40 minutes, my heart stopped. So
you were
very
on
lucky.
Machine, right? You were on a ventilator and support machine.
No, they were going to hook me up to that, but they did CPR. They hit me with the big defibrillators 13 times, if you can imagine that. And then they worked on me because I was in good shape and I was healthy. You know, that's what I learned. They kept trying. And then they hooked me up to a machine that gave me CPR and took me to the hospital. And then when I arrived at the hospital, I had a faint pulse. So that was the miracle.
Did they have to open you up to fix the heart?
No, they just put a stent in there, a little thing to open up one artery. It was just the worst artery that was blocked. It's called a widowmaker artery. So when it's blocked, it's just lights out, you know.
Did you have to change your diet, what you're eating, and
no? Mostly what I'm working on is stress level. Yeah, I think that's what led to it. So I'm working on a lot with meditation and breathing practices and trying to listen to my body when it comes to doing different things and not get into that stressful spot. you know.
And Scott, I agree 100% that most of our not like a serious illnesses that you have to go to hospital and see the doctor. They come from us being stressed. Then our body is worn off and has no life juice to fight some stuff that. So yeah, you're right. They trying to stay lessening the stress is our mental condition influences our physical condition, I believe. And if we can manage to keep balanced mentally, our body has better chances to stay healthy.
Yes.
And
well, I wish that for both of us.
Me too. Me too.
And
you look great.
And Sasha, so do you. And thank you so much for doing this today. It was so much fun to learn more about your life. Yeah.
Yes, it was my honor. Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope my story is interest for anyone.
Yeah, it was great.
And please join Handstand for Life. Check it out. It's an interesting group. There will be more 80s music, handstands, and then crazy stuff. Scott, I love you.
Talk to you soon. Love you too.
Pieces from New York.
Hope to see you soon. Okay.
Yes, you will.